Hello, welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and today we're going to create a gorgeous layout using a very large photo and the Melon Mania collection. I'm sporting my melon shirt as I highlight the Melon product bundle, which includes this great stamp set, a 12 by 12 UV coated sticker sheet, and all of the pattern paper that is highlighted in our Melon collection, 6 different patterns. It also comes with a completely irresistible, gorgeous coordinating cardstock pack that has silver foil accents, gold foil accents, and UV coated cardstock, which I love so much. It's my favorite thing about the entire collection. And then, of course, the product bundle also includes plenty of extra melon cardstock, which is our featured color of the year, and it's just about ending. So it's time to create with this gorgeous collection. In addition to the products in the bundle, we have all kinds of melon bling accents. We have melon shimmer trim and melon cardstock. Now, this last fall, I created a couple fall projects that featured all of our melon products. And I love this layout. I've actually used this layout, and I just recently did a video featuring this layout using a masculine collection, but it used the crisp air stamp and thin cuts. And then I've also used the individual leaf thin cuts on some cards, but the ones that I wanted to highlight the most on this scrapbooking layout is the simple leaves collection. I love to use leaves all times of the year, and you can simply change their colors. And I love that the veins in these leaves have special thin cuts and that they show. I'm going to highlight my little Claire Adeline, which is one of my granddaughters. She actually just graduated from kindergarten, and I have not yet scrapbooked her newborn photos. And I had this one gorgeous photo that I felt was so worthy of being highlighted itself. And so I love this gingham. I love the patterns in the page, but it also has a little bit of either Seabrook or Glacier in it. So I'm trying to decide if I would want to mount that on white, or maybe pull in a little bit of the Glacier in the color, and that blanket and her little teddy bear would be perfect with the Glacier background as well as all the melon patterns. So I think I love the Glacier in the background. I know that I'm going to want to use this scalloped border sticker to be able to create transitions, and then perhaps add in some of those melon patterns on the bottom somehow, either in strips or maybe do some tearing or some layering on the bottom, and find some patterns that really coordinate and that can accent the photo. These patterns are just too irresistible to pass up. Now, I do think it would be beautiful with the melon glitter paper, but I've also grabbed a little bit of our Seabrook glitter paper just because of that accent color in the background on Claire's photo, and it's such a wonderful coordinating color for melon. What's really super fun about melon is that all kinds of colors actually accent melon. You can put sapphire with it. You can put sage with it. You can put some of the yellow families with it. It's just such a gorgeous, gorgeous color that coordinates with so much. So I think I am kind of scaring myself, but I think there is no rule that says that this has to be an 8 by 10. I want it to be a super large photo, and it's going to take up most of the layout in the photo. When you use larger photos, there's really little room left over for decorating, and you have to be a little bit creative in how you embellish your page when most of the page is taken up with the photo. And I do want Claire Adeline to be the focal point of the photo, but I do think I could take maybe 3/4 of an inch to a 1/2 of an inch off of that photo. So I did end up taking 3/4 of an inch off, thinking that I totally could take a little more off if need be. So I'm going to cut this down, I believe, to 8 by 11. Is that what I went? I went 8 by 10. And so then I can mount her photo on the 8x10 gingham. I do think I'm going to want to be adding quite a bit of bling. I'm going to be maybe wanting to do some things with the shimmer brush. I'm going to want to be pulling in that stamp set. So I do think I need a white background to be able to do some of those things. So I'm going to add an 11 by 11 white daisy base to that. And then I'm struggling because I love, love, love the other side of the paper as well. I mean, I think most everyone swoons for a gingham, but so I think I will go with that, but the other side would be gorgeous as well. Now I'm using my anti-static pouch and I'm going to pull off a few stickers that I think I might want to use. It's kind of hard to tell this early in the process which ones I'm going to use, but the sticker sheet has a lot of small and medium stickers, not a ton of super large stickers. So I know that I'm going to need some more accents to probably use some of those leaf thin cuts to do some accents, but I'm going to just take the sticky off of the back of those stickers so I can move them around and play with them a little bit. I'm 100% sure about the scallop sticker, but now I need to decide what I want to layer the bottom with, and I really want to show off lots of pattern papers, and I think I've decided to go with a tearing technique. Tearing has been so popular as of late. It was popular years ago and kind of went away for a while and has come back, and it's kind of a big thing right now. So I'm actually starting kind of guesstimating with about 3 by 11 of that pattern paper. And for all the rest of the strips, I really don't need more than 1.5 to 1.25 inches. I think that I start out with 2 inches of each because I'm not quite sure, and I actually end up trimming quite a bit of it off. I may have started even with 2.25 inch, and you can layer all of that, but it can sort of get bulky. So a lot of times if you just have small strips and keep tucking those strips under instead of adding full strips underneath and making that too bulky to work with. Now I'm finding some patterns that I love that I want to use on the bottom, and then I'm trying to decide if I want to bring in some more Seabrook or if I want to bring in a little bit of the melon glitter paper, or maybe I want to bring in some more glacier. I think I've settled on my strips. I'm pretty sure I've settled on my strips, and then of course I need to do some tearing of those strips, and I kind of want to start closer to the upper corner and get wider and maybe tear on a diagonal. And I like to kind of do a couple things. Sometimes I will tear my strips and actually lay one strip on top of the next strip so that I can see how I want to tear, or I will tear them all and then layer them that way. But I always just put adhesive on the upper portion of the strip so that the bottom portion is open so that I can keep sliding strips under. And now I'm discovering what I shared earlier, that I really don't need to waste that expensive glitter paper and this pattern paper. So I'm actually trimming off a little bit more. I don't think any of my strips were larger than 1.75, and some of them were 1.5. So don't use more strips than more of your pattern paper than you actually have to. Sometimes in designing, you do have a little bit of waste because you're kind of trying to figure it out. But now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to tear all of those strips, and I'm going to get a little wider as I get toward the bottom because I'd like to have those strips a little bit on an angle. And what I'm envisioning at this point is maybe having a decorative element up in that upper left corner below Claire's head where there's a little bit more of a space. Now, sometimes people hesitate to use large 8x10 photos or large 6x8 photos because we have a tendency to think of these photos, even 5x7s, although I think 5x7s are really more widely used in scrapbooks, but it isn't that often that you see an 8x10 or a 6x8. We think of those as wall photos. I have photos that I keep on the wall that I change out as the kids grow or the grandkids or the kids give me new photos. So I will have them on the wall in frames, and then I'll replace those. But I also, once I replace them, I create layouts for them in my album, and then they also often, because they are a little more elaborate and they feature large, beautiful photos, I will use them again during events by putting them in displays. So now I'm just actually culminating my work here by adding those strips that I've decided on, and I'm just going to go through and continually tuck them under and put adhesive just on the top so that I can continually tuck each strip under. And I love using this strategy because number one, you can use less paper, and number two, you can go back and tack them down a little more firmly once you have them in place so that you're not pulling apart things that have a massive amount of adhesive on them. But how I use these layouts during events, I'll give you an example. So I will scrap larger photos that I'm done with on the walls, and I will put them in my albums, and then in events I will pull those scrapbook layouts out of the albums and be able to put them in displays. So I was able to pull out some gorgeous prom photos that I used bigger photos of my older granddaughter Gracie, some of her graduation photos, and I was able to pull out maybe a larger kindergarten photo that I used in a larger, more elaborate layout, and I was able to use those in her displays during her graduation party. Now I'm experimenting with some shimmer brushes. I didn't just want to pull out the Melon shimmer brush and start splattering away on the page. I do know I wanted to use a little bit of splatter on my page, but I kind of wanted to look at that in scratch paper to be sure on the color. So the melon actually looks a little more orange once it's on paper. And then I also tried a little bit of Seabrook. I tried a little bit of Glacier, and I tried some peach. And I actually think the peach is a really good fit and a good match. And so I'm actually going to mask off a section. I only have a tiny bit of white to work with after all that, but I think what I'll do is mask up a small section up on the top as well, so you see a little bit of that splatter barely on the edge of that white. It isn't very much, but it's enough to add an element of interest to the page. Now, normally I probably would have done this before I started working with the page, but I just wasn't exactly sure what kind of space I would have, or if I would have any space at all, or how it was going to transpire. So now I have that splatter, and I'm actually going to begin now with embellishing. So I'm going back to my original inspiration, and I'm looking at the Simple Leaves thin cuts, and I'm also looking at the Crisp Air thin cuts. Both of these sets are still available. The Crisp Air Stampin' Thin Cuts is low quantity, and then I just wanted to remind you that I actually did use that layout over again, the one layout that I used in the fall, and I'll link that video if you want to see how I created that layout and the dimensions of that layout. But I think because Claire's photo is so large that I want to go with the Simple Leaves. It's still available, and it's an investment set. An investment set meaning that it's a set that you can use over and over and over, and it comes with the thin cuts for the outer leaves, the thin cuts for the inner veins, which are gorgeous, and then it also comes with stamps to be able to stamp all of the leaves that you want to. Now, I created some of those on some of the melon pattern paper and actually added melon glitter paper for the veins and the leaves, and it's absolutely gorgeous. For the solid colors, I chose to use Melon cardstock and Glacier cardstock, and I am going to do tone-on-tone stamping on the cardstock leaves. So I'm simply going to season my stamp, and I'm going to stamp Melon on Melon, tone on tone, and Glacier on Glacier, tone on tone. Now, a couple of these leaf shapes, actually you could use on the light side of our cardstock cardstock. So our cardstock is two-sided with a dark and a light side, and some of them, the inner veins would totally work even if you flipped the leaf over. So if you want a little bit of variation, some of them, they have to be a certain way for the inserts of the veins to be able to work, and some of them don't. But now that they're all together, I'm in love. I absolutely love them, and I have used these over and over, and I don't often recommend Stampin' Thin Cut unless I think you're going to be able to get great use out of it. And these simple leaf thin cuts, you totally will. I will totally link those in the description of this video. So now I really want to pull in some more bits. We need more bits to be able to decorate our page aside from those leaves and the stickers. And so I want to do a little bit more stamping with this great Melon Mania stamp. And so a lot of times what I'll do when I'm creating is I'll just stamp a variety of stamps that come in the stamp set in a variety of colors on scratch paper. So I pull out my leftover paper from a previous project, and I will stamp a variety of images on those papers, and I may not use them all. I may eventually make a companion page. I often make workshops, and I am actually working on a Melon Mania workshop right now, and typically my workshops are 10 to 12 pages. So often if I make extra icons, I will use them later. So I will store them right with the stamp set or right with that paper collection if it matches a certain color scheme, or right in the thin cut set, so that when I pull those out or when I need extras of those, I have those to use. And I love this arrow that comes in the Melon Mania stamp set, and I can envision there's a little stamp in the stamp set, and I think it's called Sweet One or You're Sweet, Too Sweet, and then there's another one that says something like Love This. And I want to use intense black on top of the melon ink or the glacier ink. I'm not quite sure which one I'm going to use because I don't know how I'm going to embellish it yet, but I'm just going to add all kinds of stamping to my white scraps to be able to have things to choose from. When I'm playing around with my pages and I'm trying to make clusters and embellishments, I like to actually lay a whole bunch of bits around me in a mess, and I like to be able to pull them aside, put them in, and create clusters with those. And it's so fun to do that and to have lots of things to choose from between stickers and bling and stamping. And stamps are a great and economical way to be able to create so many more bits to add to your pages. So this set came with a great sticker sheet that has lots of bits on it, and it also has lots of bling in the collection that you can add to the bundle, but no die cuts or larger pieces. So I love having the stamp set as an option. I'm actually going to stamp some more. I'm going to stamp some more hearts. I'm going to stamp some border flowers, a few things that I'm going to then fussy cut out to be able to use. I love finally getting this photo of Claire scrapped. She just graduated from kindergarten, and there is a little bit of a story that goes along with this photo of Claire. So when our son was in and his wife were in the hospital having Claire, they knew for sure that she was going to be a Claire, but they didn't know what her middle name was going to be. And while they were in the hospital, there was a woman or a group of women that came around with care packages for those that had newborn babies. And there was quite a sad story, is that this mother had lost her newborn baby in that hospital, and her name was Adeline. And she was keeping the memory of her daughter alive by blessing other new mothers in the hospital with these care packages of all kinds of things that would help a new mother. And I get almost choked up thinking about it because, excuse me, whoever should lose their newborn baby, it would have to be one of the most painful things in the entire world. But then my son and daughter-in-law named Claire after this mother's little girl that she had lost, and they named Claire Adeline after her. And so I just think it was such an amazing story, and it blessed that mother and made that mother feel so good. And we sure love our Claire Adeline. So now I have all these great bits. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to have all of those beautiful simple leaves, to have the stickers from the sticker sheet, to be able to have all of the stamped bits. And I'm actually pulling out our Aqua Tri-Blend marker. A lot of times when I'm getting ready to fill in centers of flowers or do things with tri-blends, I will take scrap paper and I will put the dark, the medium, and the light on the scrap paper in a variety of colors that I think might match. And before I actually start my coloring, I will choose the color that I think best coordinates. And I love our tri-blends for that very reason, that they have a light, a medium, and a dark, and you can almost always find a color that matches. So now begins the fun. So I'm actually adding some foam tape to the scalloped strip, because that is the one thing that I've known from the very beginning that I wanted to use as a transition strip. Once I have the foam tape on, I don't actually have to peel the foam tape off, because I may want to move it up or down. But now I just want to take all of these bits and I want to try to create a visual triangle. There's a lot of ways to go with a visual triangle. I could do upper left, lower left, and right. I could do upper right, lower left, and upper left. I could do a lot of combinations, but I'm trying to figure out what would be best given the space in the photo. So there's a lot of that more glacier Seabrook color up in the upper right and in the lower left. And for some reason, I feel the need to have a little bit of a filler, like maybe these fun banners. And I particularly love the little joy banner, because of course, newborns always make you think joy. I have my 2 arrows to choose from with my little sentiments on. So that's something. And then I also have this little floral strip that I created with stamping. So I'm just gonna play around, and you're probably going to witness a little bit of a struggle sometimes, or what appears to be a struggle, but it's actually my favorite part. My favorite part, and what I feel like is playing, where I'm just putting bits in different places and just enjoying myself, figuring out what looks nice. And I might start over 100 different times, but it's actually simply a matter of 5 or 10 minutes of just kind of like figuring out what might look nice together. It's a little bit tricky with Claire's photo, because I do want to maybe use these arrows so that they are pointing more toward her, but they're only going in one direction. So the stamp set went in one direction, so I only really have the upper left or the lower left, or even the left middle of the page as an option for those arrows. So I'm simply trying to find some different little bits that might work together to be able to cluster together and use those arrows in some way. And probably if you followed me at all, I do a lot of laying something there, walking away, working on a different segment, especially if I'm getting myself where I'm not quite sure what I like. If there's nothing that's really speaking to me, I like to just sort of lay the pieces up there and go work on a different segment and come back. And I may actually put it in a couple different ways, and they might completely get rearranged the next time I come back up. And that to me is really what building clusters are. A lot of times I have an anchor in the cluster, which is typically maybe a larger piece that is popped up, or a larger piece that is the base. And I sort of consider the larger piece a bit of an anchor, and then I can tuck things in, on, and around that anchor. So with smaller bits, it's a little harder. You don't quite have a large anchor like what you're used to, but I don't want to use too large of pieces up at the top because I don't want to take away from Claire and from the gorgeous, gorgeous photo. So most of Claire's newborn photos were very, very fall oriented. I had seen a photo on Pinterest that had a little wooden crate that was filled to the top with candy corn. And then, of course, the little baby inside the candy corn. And so I convinced my daughter-in-law, I even said I would pay for the photos if she would do a photo shoot with the candy corn. And I said I would purchase the candy corn if the photographer would do the rest. And I think it was something like 6 bags of candy corn to put little Claire Bear in the candy corn. And I love that photo so much, but it's a really rich, with the orange, it's a really rich fall. And so I may, with any of our new fall lines, I may scrap that with the fall lines. I'm ashamed to say that I haven't even gotten her newborn photos scrapped. As you get into the grandkids and the grandkids numbers grow, you do get a little bit more behind. And I don't scrap everything of every grandchild. I typically scrap what I do with them or what we do with them, or highlights. If my kids send me certain photos that are special or they're highlights of really special events, most of the special events I get to be part of, so I'll be scrapping those anyway, but special photos that they do send. But I leave all of the scrapping up to each of our children, each of our 3 children. And some of them do really well with scrapping. Some of the grandkids scrap. And so some of them do it as well. So now I'm just playing. I'm just building this wonderful leaf cluster. And this photo, I feel like maybe Melon Mania sort of lends itself to real fun summer, especially when you're adding in the Seabrook and the glacier. And I feel like even though Claire was born in the fall in October, this photo doesn't scream fall. I love the colorful summery scheme in this. And so I feel like even though leaves sort of make us think of fall, leaves are in so many more seasons than fall, right? We have leaves all summer long, gorgeous leaves all summer long. And so I feel like leaves are a great go-to. And sometimes, even though everyone swoons for flowers, it's so nice to do something besides flowers. And I don't think that we have to have flowers with these leaves to make a gorgeous cluster. So again, just playing around, tucking some of the heart stickers in there, the stamped hearts in there, deciding what I like and what I don't like. And I feel like I'm taking an enormous amount of time here playing and having fun with these leaves. It kind of is one of those things where it's my favorite part, and I love to actually take my time on this part and really think about it and really have fun. It's sometimes the base of the page goes together so fast, like there's nothing to this base. Literally, you have the photo mat that is your pattern paper that's holding your large photo. And now I'm speeding up a little bit because even though I'm enjoying myself thoroughly, you all might be like, come on, get with it, get to decorating. And I've actually completely rearranged. I've moved my large cluster over to the left because I was having a hard time finding balance. I didn't really want to have banners below banners, but I did want that glacier piece for journaling the story, or at least journaling a little bit of Claire's story on the stamped glacier piece. And so I thought that maybe a cluster with that stamped glacier piece and the longer sticker banner, and putting a combination of leaves with that would really help give me a little bit of a cluster around that journaling piece. But then I would have the banners up above that and then the large cluster. So you still have a visual triangle. It's just a little bit different of a triangle. And so even though I've got my triangle already, I still want to do a little bit up up at the top. It just feels like it needs a little something, and I am determined to get that arrow in there. I really want to use that arrow. We also have some of this great shimmer trim in Melon, and I think it's so fun. You can either totally bend it to make a little bit of a top, kind of like how you would make a tag top. You just sort of fold it in so that both pieces come up to create that tag. And you can also snip those pieces together, or snip those pieces apart and use them separately, which I think is what I eventually end up doing because it's a little bit bulky. I used to use the mini stapler and do this a lot and staple those types of pieces on the tops of tags. But then I will often just snip those apart and use those and put them opposite each other to make it look like a little banner piece or a little ribbon that's sticking out of something. And sometimes less is more with the shimmer trim. I just love using little tiny bits of it that peek out. So in combination with the glitter paper, so we have the Seabrook glitter paper, we have a little bit of the Melon glitter paper, and then we have a little bit of that Melon shimmer trim. And it's just enough to add those glittery accents to really put this layout over the top. And I think when you're using like an 8x10 or a 6x8 and it's a professional photo, I think it's really worth going over the top a little bit and really making it a wow page. And I will likely pull this out and it will definitely be at Claire's graduation in a frame or in some kind of a stand. I do use sometimes the metal stands that hang our page protectors. Those make great displays. I will also use wooden easels as displays at different events, or you can simply get, you know, cheaper but cute frames at like the dollar store to be able to use at different events. I love to be able to say that these layouts are going to go from the wall to the book to the frame to the event and back into the book again. Now I'm just putting the finishing touches on. The pearls I think are a little bit too much for this. The pearls are gorgeous for certain things, but I'm going to go with the flowers. The acrylic flowers are amazing. I love them. They're so darling. And so I'm just going to add a few of those in a couple little different places. And I will link in the description all of the things that I used in this layout in case you would like to recreate this layout yourself. And Melon Mania is going on for the next month. And of course, the Melon Mania product bundle is always discounted, but you can get all of the Melon products separately. And those simple leaves are still available on the shop site as well with those gorgeous thin cuts that I love so much. So I have enjoyed thoroughly creating this layout with Claire Adeline and all of you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss any future layouts, and be looking for my full Melon Mania workshop that's coming soon. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and happy scrapping. I'd love for you to share your creations that are inspired by today's video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.